Thanks. And we both teach at the college, or we both teach at Columbia. I guess he teaches at the business school. I teach an entrepreneurship class at the college. Is there anyone from the college here in the house? Oh, hey, some students right here, kissing up. I don't give attendance marks for showing up here. You just have to show up on Friday at 9 a.m. Be punctual, if you can be. I was asked for a topic. This is the topic. I hope it's OK. I'm going to tell you 7 bad startup ideas. But first, I'm going to recruit you to come and work at Knotel. I'll tell you more about Knotel as we carry on, but that's my email address. Please write to me. You have your phone. Just do it. So I think that a nice way to think about these 7 bad startup ideas is 7 other problems that humanity sometimes suffers from. And the first one is greed, which in 1999 was a very topical mindset. I think you see it sometimes actually now in blockchain land. But in 1999, it was about startups. And I was greedy then. And some friends asked me to come join them to do my first real startup, which was called Gobi. And our idea for Gobi was to give away computers for free so that people could work, get on the internet. And then they would pay $20 a month or something for internet access. This was our unbelievable innovation. Computers were expensive. Not everybody had them. Not everyone was on the internet. And we're like, we'll just give away the computer. And then they'll just owe us, and they'll pay the $20 a month for a year or 2 years or whatever amount of time. And I was recruited to the company by some friends of mine from college, actually, who had started it. They'd only raised $1 million. And they'd raised it from weird investors that weren't like venture. And they, with this $1 million plan to give away 1 million computers, which was not plausible. I hadn't done the math. And I guess our feeling was that we might just IPO before needing to give out any of those computers. So in this haze of foolishness, I got involved. And I think it felt like I was there for 5 years, but I think I was only there for 4 months in this company. Massively informative and like really a big life-changing experience for me. It was right after I had finished at Columbia College in '98, and it was while I was doing my PhD. I had taken off this little hiatus, and I'd come back to New York to fool around because of greed. The company didn't work out. The next thing that I got involved in, I think is best described as being a lustful venture, which I got involved in really right when I got back to San Francisco. I met a guy who wanted to start a mobile phone company, and I just fell in love with this idea, especially when we got Richard to be involved with us. They, at Virgin, wanted to invest in our company, and we were going to use their brand, and then we were going to go all around and find some mobile phone network to be our partner. And it was January 2000. The crash was coming soon, and soon was unfolding, actually, while we were building the business. And it was just so sexy to be working on this thing with Virgin. But in the haze of that sin, I got distracted by a very, well, it wasn't venture-backed, actually, this company. It was backed by Virgin. And Virgin's actually this dude, Richard, and whatever his whims are and the way he wants to do things. And we weren't traditional startup founders, and the equity and the cap table and all that was really badly weighted in favor of our friends from Virgin. I mean, they were investing $550 million in a PowerPoint, so perhaps that was reasonable. But as far as the company got, that like birth defect of the company at the outset meant many of the founders by the end perhaps didn't do as well as they might have liked to have done. And so I switched my sins next, and I thought, I'm fed up with all this stuff. Virgin actually had done quite well, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how it went well. But my next mistake in life was searching for a startup idea, but with this first in mind. And so I just moved to France. And I was just living in Paris for a year, and I was messing around. And I was like, you know, I'm going to just do this my way in a way that makes me happy, and I'm only going to think about that. I don't care about sexy brands or other people's money or markets. I'm just going to go somewhere I want to live, and I'm going to enjoy it. Something nice will come up, and it'll inevitably be a wonderful opportunity. And so that was 2003. It was around the era of tremendous innovation, actually. There were lots of really great companies that were started in 2003. I should have started one. But instead, I was fucking around in Paris where no one was doing anything. That situation may have changed in the 15 or 16 years since then. It is more of a startup ecosystem now. But the lesson here is to be excessively selfish in your selection of priority and opportunity is perhaps to find yourself in a desert of opportunity. So next mistake, and another bad startup idea, is to be lazy. Sometimes people say laziness is good. It's a way to find the solution to a problem. But my particular version of being lazy is I joined McKinsey when I came back. When I came back to New York. I was too scared, honestly. After having that experience with Gobi and one or two other little side projects, and then even Virgin Mobile, I thought, I'm not really qualified to start my own company. This is like hard. And with Virgin, I was working for a guy who was very senior to me. He and I was like 15 years younger than him. And I was lucky to be around for that, and it was a great experience, but I thought, well, I can't do what that dude did. It's impossible. I'm just gonna go here and like learn some things. And this window of time, I guess 2003, 4, 5, 6-ish, maybe 4, 5, 6, I forget. This is like Facebook is founded, and many other lovely businesses get going, while I'm like making PowerPoints for telcos and flying around. It was a poor outcome if you just measure the exit value. So then I got mad, and I actually did get back together with my original Virgin co-founder, this guy John, and we thought, all right, this is annoying. Why are we just like sitting on the sidelines? I was doing whatever, he was doing whatever, and we're like, we should do something that will help us. We should just get even. Let's just do it. And our way of getting even was to clone our old company. So the first thing we started working on when we got back together was a company we called Blue Mobile. And if you've ever seen the Virgin logo, you may recall its coloring is red. And so we thought, well, let's just do Virgin again. Straightforward. We'll make it blue. Instead of an English billionaire, we'll find like an Irish billionaire. Instead of selling in like Target and Radio Shack, we'll sell in Walmart and drugstores. And we started working on this thing. And we were so mad and so focused on just doing this like revengeful thing that the thing started falling apart really fast, actually. The Irish billionaire was fickle, Walmart was annoying, Verizon wasn't that fun. We invested $20 million of other people's money, and then the whole thing just blew up. And somehow in the process of that thing blowing up, we noticed the idea for Peak. And the idea for Peak, if Virgin was cheap smartphones you could buy in a store, if Virgin was cheap phones you can buy in a store, Peak was cheap smartphones you could buy in a store. And so in 2008, around the time the iPhone came out, when there were only 6 million BlackBerries in the world and 3 million Palm Pilots, we thought, well, there can't just be like 9 or 10 million smartphones in the world. Eventually, there's going to be hundreds of millions, maybe billions. We should make one that's cheaper. This was our idea. And it was in some ways a slavish recreation of what we had done with Virgin. It was much harder. And we made this cheap smartphone. It was a $30 smartphone. And we sold it all around the world. And this time I was CEO, and halfway through I had to take out my co-founder, and I had to navigate all the things that are too hard when you are the founder. And it all started in this like moment of anger instead of cool repose. So it was an interesting experience. And the next thing I did after that one, because I'll tell you the outcomes in all these separately, but the next time I got back into my little armchair where I come up with project ideas, this time I was like, all right, enough with the like cheap phones. Enough of like working for other people. Let me go back to the home base, which was the place I had spent all this time doing my PhD. I did all this stuff on cognitive science, how does the mind work, and I had run across some ideas when I was finishing my dissertation about how the mind works and some technologies for neuropriming. And so I decided I would start a company about neuroscience. It's called Halo Neuroscience. And Halo Neuroscience, what we decided to do was take a piece of technology that some people had been working on in the lab for maybe 15 or 20 years, and make a gadget that you can put on your head that makes your brain work better. You can look it up sometime. And this gadget, the first application for it, we call it Halo Sport. It looks like headphones. It looks like a music headphone. You put it on. It puts some energy into your motor cortex, and you run faster, jump higher, shoot better. That was in 2013 that we started doing that. And now it is used by many of the world's militaries, elite athletes, folks in the NCAA tournament. I was at the Knicks game. Somebody invited me to the Knicks game yesterday, and this guy like landed on my lap. They were very good seats. And the guy was one of our customers. This guy, Isaiah Hicks, was amazing. So prideful. But a weird and esoteric product that many of you have not run across. I mean, it will be quite some time before any of you uses Halo. Is anybody here like seen a Halo or used a Halo? Is there like one person? The odds are low. And they're probably, yeah, unless you're like a super elite athlete, a professional athlete, military, or some kind of Ironman person, you wouldn't have run across it. And so with this like very ivory tower-ish idea, we made a business that I think is interesting, but it falls prey to some problems. All right, so cheap phones, neuroscience, some of the other stuff sitting on the beach that I was doing. So then I'm like, all right, New York lately has had a wonderful period of high revenue consumer transaction type companies. There's a bunch of these, right? And I'm like, these aren't hard. I'm fucking doing all this neuroscience stuff. Why don't I make like eyeglasses? It can't be that hard. I'll just make a PowerPoint about eyeglasses and I'll launch a business about it, and we will just make a big business. Not exactly the narrative, really, on the way we got to this company, Notel, but kind of, yeah. I mean, we were running an office with room for 100 people, and we only had 4. The Halo team had moved out and gone on to do some new stuff. We were incubating a few projects. And we're sitting there in the office with all this extra space, so I was always sharing it. And I had all these companies rolling through from time to time, 20 people, 50, 80, whatever. And at a certain point in 2015, late 2015, I'm like, maybe these are my eyeglasses. Maybe these floors of the building are a completely straightforward thing that, if it was deployed differently, could be a large and interesting business. And so now I'm in the eyeglass business. Here's what happened from these little sins of mine. So Gobi, which didn't work out super well, got sold for a fraction of its original capital. Virgin Mobile became a very large business. You can still buy it today. About 10% of all the mobile phone users in the country use Virgin Mobile as a brand. It was a big IPO. But managers and the founders ended up with very little stake at IPO. France, boring. McKinsey, boring. With Blue and Peak, the end of 2012, SoftBank bought Peak from us. And it was a really nice outcome. They put the software into hundreds of millions of phones around the world. There's a chat app that's like a clone of WhatsApp in India called Hike, 500 million monthly uniques. That's based on our software. Halo, my co-founder runs it. It's based in San Francisco. We raised 20 million, and you'll find it around. You can look for it on Amazon. One day you'll see it on the street, I hope. And Notel is close to 100 million that we've raised so far, and there's other numbers that'll be more public in the weeks and months to come that will tell you how far we've gotten. But we have 37 buildings around New York, San Francisco, and London. We do headquarters as a service, which means it's for real companies. It's not co-working. That's what we do. And so my small lesson for you guys, because like if I do these 7 deadly sins, I have to give you some kind of lesson. It tells you how to live your life. And I think all I could come up with was to just choose your poison.